Thank you for your patience, everyone, and I would like to call the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, May 9th, 2011 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Council members Baker. Here. Galloway. Lennon. Here. Piana. Here. And Mayor Coulter.
Here, yes. Thank you. We have a quorum. I was also notified by Councilman Galloway that he had a flooding emergency in his basement, so he may be late or he may not make it.
I would move to excuse the absence of Councilman Galloway.
Support.
Moved to excuse Councilman Galloway's absence, supported by Baker. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly. Sorry. Council members Baker?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. Next item of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, additions?
I would move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Baker, seconded by Lennon. Any discussion on the agenda? If not, once again, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. We have three presentations this evening. The first being Bikes for Little Tykes. Is there a representative? The chief is going to. The police chief is going to represent Bikes for Little Tykes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll start, though. I'll have Sergeant Darren Brown, Officer Dave Spellman. Actually, this is their brainchild. Both officers from, one from the Command Officers Union, one from the Patrol Officers Union, came up with an idea for
Chief, would you grab a microphone so the people at home can hear you? Because I know this is a great program, and I know you want to hear about it.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Okay, I'll start over.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
Several months ago, Sergeant Darren Brown, Officer Dave Spellman, representatives of the Command Officers Union, Patrol Officers Union came up with a plan in order to reconnect our police department with the community. Sergeant Brown, I will let him go into the details of what his idea was, but basically what we were trying to do is to make sure that the residents of this community still knew that we cared, that we still brought forth that old-time feeling of the police department connecting with our residents and the kids in our town. So I'll give it over to Sergeant Brown. By the way, big help was his wife, Yvette, also a police officer in Auburn Hills, and we appreciate all the help she did with this. But Sergeant Brown will give you a lowdown on what his plan was and how successful it was.
It just kind of struck us that there's a lot of bummed out kids every year because we get about 40 to 50 stolen bikes every summer. Some of them are kids' bikes. And, we thought it would be a good idea to try and raise some money and to replace some of these bikes. Everyone suffered financially the last couple of years, and I'm sure replacing bikes wasn't in a lot of people's budget. So we put our heads together and started working, and we're actually able to raise enough money to buy 10 bikes and to have a pretty good head start on next year. And today, one of the young men whose bike got stolen last year is actually here. And before I bring him up, let me just say that we couldn't have done this without some outstanding support from our business community. I want to specifically mention Ed Schmidt-Ford, Crandall Worthington, the Lions, the Hazel Park Lions Club, and Hank Kinsey Associates made really generous contributions that really helped us out. Also, Dave Spellman and Officer Janessa Danielson now, pitched in and made things run real smooth for our fundraiser. Scott May, come on up. His bike, I believe, got stolen from school last year. So Here's his new bike. We got him a helmet and a lock, so hopefully it doesn't get stolen this year. And I'm sure City Council doesn't want to hear this, but the chief actually waived the fee for the bike license. And we have 9 more bikes to go. We have the kids lined up. So we're ready to go.
Good work, Mayor.
That's great. That's great. Chief and particularly Sergeant, that is just a wonderful program. I think the entire community is excited about what you came up with. Happy to be able to do that for the youth of our community. Thank you so much. Great program and great fundraiser as well. Thank you so much. We have a presentation this evening from the Ferndale Public Schools. As we often do, hear about all the good things going on in our great public school system. Good evening.
We have some great news to share tonight.
Awesome.
My name is Jessica Stilger, Communications Specialist for the Ferndale Public Schools. I'd like to start out by announcing that the Ferndale Schools has been named a 2011 Best Community for Music Education. That puts the district in the top 100 districts in the nation for music education. We're very proud to have all the programs that we offer, to not have to make any cuts to those education music programs in the past years. And, you know, we have a wide variety from instrumental music in 4th grade through the state championship marching band. And so we're very proud of the teachers that put their heart and soul into the program. And it's a very prestigious designation. We're very excited about it. We would like to take a couple moments to talk about the School Aid Fund and the battle that's going on in Lansing. Even though the House passed their bill this past week, it's not too late to fight the governor's proposed rate on the School Aid Fund. The final votes have not come in yet, and so there can be changes that can be made. Our superintendent says that we cannot accept the governor's proposed cuts. We need to continue to communicate to those in the House and the Senate that the School Aid Fund is healthy, and without this unnecessary rate to fund higher education, which violates the intent of Proposal A, which dedicates funds to public K-12 schools, there is enough money to operate Michigan's K-12 schools without a need for cuts. There's actually a surplus in the School Aid Fund this year, and we would be completely fine going into next year without this proposed rate. So we encourage our residents to continue to write, call, email, and visit your elected officials to communicate your point of view on education, and it's a priority for the state of Michigan. We also have plans in the works to host a Save Our School Forum hosted by the Ferndale Schools on Monday, May 23rd at 6:30 p.m. We are working with Representative Lipton's office, and we are hoping that all of our elected officials in Lansing will join us. And we, will be announcing it a little bit more to the community, but anyone is welcome to come and give their testimonies so that our representatives can take it back to Lansing. We have information on our school district website, ferndaleschools.org. There's a link on the homepage to a school funding page, and we have links to all of our representatives' information and some more information and more background on the School Aid Fund.
The governor's proposed cut is over $400 a student, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 3.5% on each student's dollar amount. It's very, very significant. We have a new radio campaign starting this week. We have testimony from our parents talking about why they made the choice to send their students to the Ferndale Public Schools. And it's going to be airing on WWJ 950. We have information on our website. We have parents from elementary students through high school sharing their stories and why they chose Ferndale Schools, and we're hoping the community will tune in and listen to that. On May 21st, there is a big event going on in downtown Ferndale called Art on the Town. Here's a poster. It's a district-wide visual arts event organized by parents, volunteers, and visual arts teachers. It's bringing close to 1,000 pieces of art to downtown Ferndale businesses. And They have been created from students grades kindergarten through 12th grade. They will be posted in 20 businesses around town, and on May 21st from 12 to 4 p.m. you can go on an art walk and venture in and out of the businesses that have the art on display. The students have been working very hard to donate their work. They're very excited and proud that their work will be on display in downtown Ferndale. Their artwork will be for sale for a minimum of $5 donation. So if you are interested in coming out and just checking out the event, that'd be great. If you want to purchase artwork, that'd be wonderful too. Some of the artwork will move to the Loving Touch on June 4th for a gallery night. That's from 6 to 9 p.m. and tickets are $20, and they are on sale at the Coolidge, Kennedy, and Roosevelt School offices. We have more information in this week's newsletter. We're going to be posting more on our website, but all the businesses that are participating in this will have this poster in their windows. They should have gone up this past weekend. So if you see this in the windows, that's what they're doing. It's a really exciting, fun event to bring art into the community, bring the students, into the community. And it's also on the same day as the high school PTSA's Arts and Crafts Fair. So they're hoping that, if you come into town to look at the Arts and Crafts Fair, you can see the students' artwork. If you come to see students' artwork, you can go to enjoy the Arts and Crafts Fair at the same time. The Ferndale Schools puts out a newsletter once a week, like something like this. It's on our website every week, but we encourage anyone who's interested to sign up for our newsletter by emailing fpsfanout@ferndaleschools.org or just visit our website and see it there.
Thank you very much. Our next presentation is a proclamation on Poppy Week. Frank, why don't you come up? And while you're coming up, why don't I read the proclamation, and then you can tell us a little bit more about what's going on in Ferndale. How's that?
Okay.
All right. I would like to read for the record that the week of May 16th to the 20th, 2011, will have special national significance because of its designation as National Poppy Week, a period when the emphasis is on raising funds for a broad project of unquestionable merit, and Americans enthusiastically support this annual tribute to their war dead, which provides funds for the rehabilitation and increased comfort of those deserving disabled veterans of all wars. And the sale of this flower of remembrance, again, will be handled by the American Legion, Post 330, and the VFW, Post 1407, and its auxiliary unit, both from the city of Ferndale. So now, therefore, I, David Coulter, Mayor of the City of Ferndale, officially declare and proclaim the week of May 16th to the 20th, 2011, as Poppy Week in the City of Ferndale, and urge all citizens to support this sale, which has great significance for the living victims of the war.
Thank you. Thank you. Evening, Mayor and Council. Every year around Memorial Day, veterans of the foreign wars, American Legion, and auxiliary volunteers distribute millions of these bright red poppies in exchange for contributions to assist disabled and hospitalized veterans. This program provides multiple benefits to the veterans and to the community. The hospitalized veterans who make the flower are able to earn a small wage. Each are made by hand, which will also supplement their income. And then it will make them feel more sufficient, self-sufficient, the physical and mental activities provided, many therapeutic benefits as well. Donations are used exclusively to assist and support the veterans and the families. The poppy also reminds the community of the sacrifices and continued needs of our veterans. This poppy has become a national known and recognized symbol of sacrifice and is worn in honor of the men and women who served and died for their country in all wars. So on April 19th is our Poppy Drive. I will be out there myself and hopefully a few veterans out on 9 Mile in Woodward. We'll be asking again for donations. As customary tonight, the first sale that I've done in many, many years is approach the council for their donation, and then outside the council chambers here, I will be there for those who wish to contribute. And again, we'll be out in force, hopefully, weather holds out good, and we appreciate your help with the veterans. And once again, we also welcome you to our annual Memorial Day Parade recognizing the veterans on that day, which will be May 30th at 10 a.m.
Thanks, Frank. While you're coming up to get your proclamation, we'll get our dollars ready.
Okay.
trade you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have that on my calendar yet. I'll get on to work on it a little bit. Thank you, Frank.
Frank, thanks for that, and for all the great work that you do on behalf of our veterans. And I know all the council people will be there at the parade, and we'll see you on
We
Memorial
look
Day.
forward to seeing you there.
Thank you,
Hopefully
sir.
the weather holds out good.
Yes. It has, we're on a streak. It has for almost a decade now. All right. Our next item of business this evening is call to audience. As you know, call to audience is 30 minutes where anyone in the audience can address council on any topic that's not on the agenda. We ask that you save those topics for that portion of the agenda. You have 3 minutes now. We'll do this for 30 minutes. I see quite a line. If we need more than 30 minutes, we'll go to the end of the agenda, and I'll reopen call to audience then. So I will now call the audience to order at 7:52. Please state your name.
Deborah Newton, and I would respectfully ask you to leave this 30 minutes strictly to the audience members, and for you to refrain, everybody at that table to refrain from making their remarks until after the 30 minutes, because everybody here is entitled to that 30 minutes, and that shouldn't include your remarks from anybody up there.
That is our policy. Thank you.
It's 30 minutes on the clock. But the people here deserve the 30 minutes to speak.
The policy, at least since I've been mayor, is we don't talk, you do.
Okay, I will say I haven't been here since you've been mayor, so I just think that it ought to be respected. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Julie LeBrow, and I'm Audrey Long, and we are board members and founders of the Southeast Michigan Dyke March. The second annual Southeast Michigan Dyke March and Rally will be Saturday, June 4th. Everyone is welcome to our all-inclusive, family-friendly event. The gathering for the event will begin at 1:30 p.m. in the Worthington Lot Alley. The march will step off at 2 p.m., and the rally will begin at 3 p.m. at Gary Park, where there will be a variety of entertainment and musical performances. We are currently raising funds through our Indiegogo website at indiegogo.com/Southeast Michigan Dyke March. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope to all see you on June 4th.
Thanks for coming. Dan, good evening.
Good evening. Dan Martin, 1447 West Hazelhurst. But I'm here today on behalf of the Ferndale Community Foundation, which I am very privileged to be chair of. And I am here to announce our annual grant solicitation cycle, which began this last week. Every year we take grants from nonprofit organizations for projects within the city of Ferndale that benefit the residents of the city of Ferndale. And grants are due this year on Friday, June 10th. And there's a number of ways you can get a grant application. The easiest would be to go to our website at www.FerndaleCommunityFoundation.org, or the applications are also available at City Hall, or you can give me a call at 248-672-4067. This year we're going to award a total of $7,000 with individual awards not to exceed $2,500 for applicants. And as always, we'll take grant requests in the areas of health, human services, public art, education, any project that occurs and benefits, again, the residents of the city. This year in particular, however, we are interested in projects that really impact the long-term viability and capacity of our nonprofits in the city. These are really tough economic times. And as much as we can put our resources to ensuring the long-term sustainability of these organizations, we certainly would look preferentially on those. I do want to say one more thing. For any questions about the grant application process or questions about what we're looking for specifically, we are having an information session at Kulik Center on Thursday, May 19th. That's at 7 p.m. It's not required for you to come, but I would certainly encourage you to do so for any and all applicants. So again, the deadline is Friday, June 10th. They can be turned in electronically. The instructions are on our website, or they can be turned into City Hall, and we will award the money on the June 27th City Council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Good evening.
Good evening, City Council members. We thank you for the opportunity to introduce ourselves and share information about Ferndale Youth Assistance. My name is Julie Shapansky, and I'm the Public Relations Volunteer with Ferndale Youth Assistance, and this is Stephanie McGowan. She's the caseworker. Ferndale Youth Assistance mission is to strengthen our youth and families and to provide and reduce child abuse, neglect, and delinquency through community involvement. Ferndale Youth Assistance is uniquely sponsored by our community. Our sponsors are Ferndale School District, City of Ferndale, and City of Pleasant Ridge. The Oakland County Circuit Court Family Division, with funding coming from Oakland County Board of Commissioners, and lastly, our volunteer board consisting of representatives from our local municipalities, the school board, and the community at large. This board works very hard at fundraising to provide additional prevention programs for the residents.
Hi, my name is Stephanie McGowan, and I'm a new caseworker here in Ferndale at Ferndale Youth Assistance. My office is currently located in the Ferndale High School, and basically we provide brief short-term counseling services to youth ages 6 to 16, and we offer summer camps, a Mentors Plus program, we offer student enrichment scholarships, we have a volunteer board that makes the decisions about our programs, and so I just wanted to come out along with our public relations chairperson to introduce ourselves and our programs and ask for your support.
Do you have a date for the Youth Assistance Dinner?
The Youth Recognition Program, we didn't have one this year. Oh. Yeah, so look forward to next year.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your
Thanks
time.
for coming out.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Douglas Christie, Chair of the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission, and a couple things tonight. Kind of connecting with the police officers with the bike program, which was great to see. May is National Bicycle Month, and Friday, May 20th, is National Ride Your Bike to Work or school or wherever. So I hope to see a lot of people out bicycling in Ferndale, especially on the 20th. And the second topic this evening is I wanted to remind everybody that our Green Tuesday seminars are back onto the second Tuesday of each month. So the next one would be tomorrow, for those of you watching live, or May 10th. And they are at the library now, 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and the topic for the May 10th Green Tuesday is gardening in the urban yard. We have an expert talking about backyard and container gardening for novices. We're going to talk about, he will be talking about what grows best and how to nurture everything that you've planted and try to keep it alive and feed yourself and your family. And there'll also be some information about Good Neighbor Garden, which is Ferndale's own community garden. So again, that's May 10th, 6:30 to 8 at the library. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Ida Marone. I live on 497 West Troy Street. And today I would like to show my support for changing the current ordinance regarding keeping and housing fowl. It's section 12-116 on ordinance number 899 from 1998, which currently makes it unlawful to keep, house, or maintain fowl within a distance of 150 feet of any building or part of a building used by any person for habitation, which essentially most residents in the city are not large enough and fall under that size limit. So today I just want to inform you of possible benefits and maybe disadvantages of keeping hens in an urban setting, just so you have some food for thought. The obvious benefits of keeping laying hens is access to fresh and naturally produced eggs. And some other benefits maybe people don't think about is the chicken eat bugs and weeds, which is beneficial for gardening and can reduce or even eliminate the use of chemical herbicides and pesticides. Chicken produce manure, which can be composted and used as a natural fertilizer. And chicken can produce or can provide an educational opportunity so you can see where your common food is coming from.
Could we have quiet in the audience, please? Thank you.
And chicken can also be pets, especially for people who may be allergic for certain animal fur or dander. So beside the positive things, Are there any downsides? Sure. People may ask, won't it look messy, be smelly, or even bring property values down? Well, it doesn't have to be. And I think this is a recurring theme here. Just like any other pet or animal, chicken need care. So good maintenance practices help keep birds happy, healthy, and odor-free, and that also keeps the neighbors, not upset about it. A chicken that's properly cared for is just as clean as a dog or any house bird. And then laying hens can be kept in a yard so inconspicuously that it may not even be apparent that chicken are even around. So that's something that may be a hint for people around here. And then, when there are eggs to share, and the chicken coop in the neighborhood can actually be a conversation starter. So it can enhance the community one way or another. Other things people may be concerned about, will it be attracting vermin? Raising chicken, just like raising a dog or any other pet, requires some care and diligence, and it is not for everyone. So, again, that's just a food for thought, and I hope that in the coming weeks we will all hear some more about this issue and have an open, honest discussion why Ferndale should allow raising laying hens in residents' backyard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Good evening, sir.
Hello, folks. My name is Kenneth Carter, 237 West Hazelhurst. I'm here on account of my water bill. I got 4 bills here to read off to you. I want you to know that I did install a sprinkler system before last season. The first bill I got was $690. I had the company come and check the system. There was no leaks. Maybe I misused it, I don't know. But $600 is a pretty big bill. The next bill I got I read the first bill I got was for $54 in the 10th, year 10. And then the big bill, 600 and something. The next bill I got is $491. I shut the system off, so that's only half of the reading here, I guess.
I told him
all I can say about that. And then this last bill I got here, not the last one, I got one more after this, is for $77. I don't know how my water system goes up and down, but it's $77 from $690. This month's bill is $219. I just got it over the last weekend. $219 from $77. I live alone in the house I'm in. My kids are all grown up. I have 2 bathrooms. I live on the first floor only.
Mr. Carter, have you contacted the city before tonight? Have you called about these bills?
I've been in City Hall, but they told me to check the toilets out, so I did what they told me to do, and I found no leaks. Tomorrow, I'll go and ask them to check the whole house or something. I don't know. I don't think it's right.
Yeah. Mark, did you?
If you would give me, if we break, or give to Byron your phone number and address, we'll pull the records and be happy to check the meter and see what the history is and stuff like that.
I was told to check the meter, and I checked it today. It's not moving.
Well, we can check it by putting it on
leaks.
a test machine as well, but we want to look at your history and to see if any of those were automatic reads, or where we didn't have an actual agreed on it. But give me your address and your phone number.
Who do I give it to?
Give it to Byron in the back. And then
Byron Fatides is our Director of the Department of Public Works, and we'll make sure we get a hold of you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Sean, how are you?
Coulter, how are you?
Very
Sean
well.
House, 141 Spencer, for those 3 or 4 people left in Ferndale who don't know who I am. I just wanted to say thank you to the voters of Ferndale who worked awful hard at this last election. It was a very divisive, very passionate, and very excited election. And it passed by a very, very slim margin. However, the tax did pass. So what I would ask, I've continued to see banter on some of the sites and blogs around town, continuing on this thing. And I would like to ask the citizens of Ferndale, at this point, the best thing we can do is come together. The people have spoken, and the tax has passed. And I'd like to ask the people of Ferndale to come together as one, and let's work our way through this. As both myself and Mr. Whitey both noted at one of our forums, the vote was not going to make or break the city either way. It was going to be tough either way we did it. One way it would be tough on the citizens, the other way tough on the city. So it was going to be tough along the way. I'd like to thank Councilman Piana, who we spent a couple hours out working one of the polls together. It was nice to chat with her and get to know her a little bit along the way. And I would also like to second my water bill. My water bill went from 12 to 13 to 14 to 24 units, and I called Jane Marie about it today. I'm going to check my meter, but I would like to talk about that as well. And finally, I would just like to ask council, now that you guys got your tax increase that you were really railing for, can we have our police and firefighters back now? We'd like to have our police and fire back. So if you guys could get the SAFER grant, get those firefighters back, and rehire the police that we lost last year, we'd be really grateful. Thank you.
Good evening, Sherry.
Good evening, Mayor. Sherry Wells, 315 West Troy. The north side of West Troy is a fire lane. Few drivers notice the no parking sign as they turn the corner. After one driver parks there, others think it's okay. Recently, a neighbor saw an ambulance with its lights flashing, creeping to get between the 2 rows of cars. I talked with one woman taking a ticket off her car to tell her other places to park, and she said, "I just won't come back to Ferndale." None of us want that. I had called the fire marshal about putting a sign in front of the second house. He eventually called back and gave me a police officer's name who said he already had a long list of things to do ahead of that. I talked about it at a DDA parking committee meeting. Brian Kramer of Rosie's told me to call Byron Fatides, who has all the signs. Within 24 hours, it was up. I left thank you messages for both Brian and Byron. Now for my main topic. In the 10 years since those of us on the Charter Revision Commission did our 3 years of volunteer work, and I paid child care for the privilege of serving, Council put several of our proposals on the ballot, and they won. An important one still out there is the ethics provision. I will give a copy to the clerk. A neighbor commented, as a good thing, that the police were at a certain corner bar a lot daytime, too. The neighbor paused, frowned, and then remarked, "Probably getting a free lunch." I was saddened to hear that reaction. A friend was dropping me off at my house last Friday after 10 p.m., and hearing for herself the loudness that I'd talked about interfering with our lives and causing 2 wonderful neighbors to put their house up for sale. After hearing what all we'd done to try to get it remedied, she said, "Somebody's getting paid off." Another person quoted, "The best government that money can buy." At a DDA committee meeting, the owner of this certain corner bar asked, "Who's running for council? Are there any other businesses going to contribute to their campaigns? I'm tired of being the only one." I don't want to believe that that's why we residents have been blown off for 2 years now.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council. My name is Charles Green. I'm an owner, operator of Diesel Boot Camp. That's the address is 374 Hilton Road. I'm up here because we're hosting a benefit for Hermanos this Saturday. from 12 to 4. I would like the city of Ferndale to either come out and participate. Donations are $10, and all the proceeds go to Carmanos. What will be there is a 10-minute workout, which is what I will give. 10 minutes of workout, $10 donations. You know, there'll be vendors, and I'll just say a lot of fun. You know. But I would like everybody to come out, donate.
Give the address and the name again.
Address is 374 Hilton Road, and the business is Diesel Boot Camp. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I'm sorry, what was the time?
12 to 4?
I was trying to see the time again. 12 to 4?
Oh.
Got it. Or we can put it up in the rec park.
Thank you.
you.
Yeah, thank
Thanks.
you. Sounds like a great event and a great cause. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Jamie Hernandez. I live at 528 East Breckenridge, Ferndale, Michigan. Oh, sorry about that. But anyways, now that it passed in 2015, what's going to happen to the police force? Is it going to drop again, or is it going to be magically funded again? Because this is supposed to be a temporary tax rise. I voted no, just to let you guys know that. But is this going to be a temporary tax raise on our property taxes, correct?
It's a 5-year millage.
So in 2015, right, whenever, I mean, that's what the thing said, and it goes to the general fund. So in 2015, are we going to be in the same problem we are now, or are you expecting the house prices to raise so you can charge us more taxes?
And again, to the point earlier, this is your time to talk, not ours, so.
Okay, well, I'll wait for that. I'll watch it on the news or something.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Hello.
Dennis Whitey, how are you,
Hi.
sir?
Dennis Whitey, 1491 Spencer. This is the last time I come before you as the co-chair of the Yes to Ferndale's Future campaign. We will legally dissolve later this week with our final campaign finance report, as well as our what do they call it, dissolution to the county. But I just want to come out to thank everybody who supported the millage, thank all the voters out there who voted either way, who participated in the process, came to a forum, looked on the internet, commented online, the whole 9 yards. One person I'd really like to thank, and this is also on his behalf because he couldn't be here tonight, was Greg Pollica, my campaign co-chair, as well as our treasurer, Mark Van Dyke, as well as all of our campaigners, where they handed out lit, did the mailing, made phone calls, updated websites, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. Another thank you goes to our police and fire unions, who really gave us a push in the last week and a half to help us to get this to pass. In addition, I'd like to thank a lot of the members of the Facts Committee as well. I did talk with Sean, as he said earlier, and Sean's right. We need to come together as a large community, and me and him are together on that. But I also want to thank some of the people who appeared passionately on their side of the issue, which is Mary Frederick, Kay Watson, as well as Alan Soul, their treasurer. So I want to thank them for giving us a spirited campaign and really making it a lively Ferndale campaign. In addition, our YesToFerndale'sFuture.com or YesFerndale.com, the guy standing behind me here, Keith Dalton, came to me with an idea. He said, let's take such a positive name, YesFerndale.com, and turn it into something that keeps reinvesting within the city. So we're talking about having Ferndale have some type of its own video production, TV show, almost TV station online to showcase Ferndale to the world, showcase our local businesses, issues facing Ferndale. Exactly, and all of our local businesses, and to kind of keep that positive message of Yes to Ferndale. And then, in addition, all the voters and everybody and members of council and media sources and all the residents who participated, a big thank you goes out to every election worker out there. Sherilyn told me about some of the things that went on that day. People had personal tragedies, and they were moving things back and forth just to make it work on, again, a skeleton crew. So I appreciate Sherilyn's election workers, as well as Marnie of the clerk's office, who's been excellent this entire time, and Carrie O'Neill as well. And then, of course, a big thank you, which I think everybody can agree on every side of the issue. Sherilyn, once again, a class act. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Keith Dalton, 3036 Horton. I'm glad the bill passed, but I also found very disappointing that only 21% of our population, or right around there, actually found the time to come out and vote on such a big issue. But most disappointing is the attitude of how I sensed throughout on my talking to everybody of how they hate all government and that all government is corrupt and wasteful. And the attitude I encountered that major corporations and the Republican Party, since Ronald Reagan, really has pushed this government corrupt and inept kind of theme from coast to coast. But yet we all forget that our Constitution says this is a government for and by the people. And so if our government is corrupt and our government is inept, it only takes us looking in the mirror to see why. Because we're not getting out and voting and we're not getting involved. I hear all these people complaining and moaning, and some of them are here all the time, and they're on the other side of the issue. I respect that immensely. But a lot of the people I talked to during this campaign had a lot of a bad opinion, but yet don't get out and vote. And yet they want to insist that all government is corrupt, and all government is inept, and all government is just out to do us in, and yet what really is doing us in is that we're not voting out or voting in the people that we need to be in. When we find somebody on the national or local level and they're really doing wrong, then people need to motivate and get out and change it. As you all know, I'm one of the obnoxious vocal ones that are out there trying to change the world, my voice at a time. I believe that every American has the duty and the duty to get off their keisters, as my grandfather would have said, and change the world and not just complain. Because I'm of this mind that if you don't vote, you don't participate, and you don't get out and express your opinion, all your whining just goes in one ear and one out the other, because you're not participating in the greatest democracy in the world, and it's everybody's duty, like of servicemen in the war. I mean, it astonished me. I'm almost done, but it astonished me. Australia just had a vote, and 98.2% turned out for that vote. Our biggest election ever, I looked up through since 1828, since they've been keeping such records, our biggest election ever was 70%. And that was back in the 20s when things were very tumultuous and, but, I mean, it's unbelievable. So, please, everybody, get involved, get active, and get informed. Thanks.
Thank you. And our final speaker, at least for this portion of Call the Audience. Good evening.
Hi, my name's Julia Music, 497 West Troy Avenue. Just want to make an announcement for the Ferndale Adoption Network. We're a network of adoptive families, fostering families, and waiting families. We'd like to announce our May event on May 21st at 9 o'clock. We're going to meet at the Detroit Zoo in the area between the entrance and the Butterfly House. It's a bring your own picnic celebration and day at the zoo. And if you want to know more, you need to find us on Facebook by searching Ferndale Adoption Network. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We've reached our 30 minutes. I will, if there's more folks that want to speak, call the audience, I will reopen it at the end of the agenda. I started at 7:50. I'm closing call to audience, but I will reopen it at the end of the agenda. Thank you. The next item of business is the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are those things that are considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted in one motion, unless there is anything that Council would like to remove from the consent agenda this evening. Oh, you read it first?
Oh, you usually read out the items. Sure.
Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held April 25th, 2011. B, approval to adopt ordinance number 1111, adopting the 2009 Michigan Building Code, ordinance number 1112, adopting the 2009 Residential Code, and ordinance number 1113, adopting the 2009 Rehabilitation Code for existing buildings. C, approval to observe Sunday, May 15th, 2011 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and proclaim the week of May 15th, 2011 as National Police Week. D, approval to erect membrane structures for Roosevelt Primary School's end-of-the-year celebration to be held at Geary Park on June 15th, 2011 from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., contingent upon the applicant obtaining a permit from the CD Department. E, approval of the special event permit for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Metro Detroit annual picnic to be held at Martin Road Park on August 13th, 2011 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. F, approval to erect a membrane structure for the David A. Lennon Foundation Family Fun Day to be held at Lennon Memorial Park on June 26, 2011 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. G, approval of the bills and payrolls as certified by the city manager to be paid subject to the review by the Council Finance Committee. Are there any items from the consent agenda that Council would like pulled this evening?
I would move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Baker, supported by Piana. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Council members Piana? Yes. Baker? Yes. Mayor Coulter?
Yes, the consent agenda passes. Thank you. We have just one regular agenda item this evening, and so we should be able to get to reopening call to council very shortly. We have one regular agenda item. That would be item 7A, consideration of sanitation fees. And for those who don't know, this was held over from our last special council meeting last Wednesday. City Manager, do you want to introduce this item?
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry that we didn't call attention to this as part of the budget review session when we talked about some of the other non-general fund budgets. Typically, the sanitation and several of the other portions of the non-general fund budget are supposed to be self-sufficient. The history here has been both a tax levy, which has been declining along with property taxes as people's values of their house decline, as well as a fee to provide the monies necessary as part of our participation with SACRA and the contracts that we have with our vendors that pick up the garbage, dispose of it, et cetera. At Council's request, Byron and I took a look at this along with Jane Marie the very next day after last Wednesday, and we're proposing the following cuts to this. We'll eliminate 2 positions. They're current positions that are not, they're people off on injury for those positions. We will cut the overtime to by $6,000, reduce some of their operating supplies, reduce the tree trimming by half, eliminate the calendar and the postage that was associated with it, and we'll move back the equipment rentals to the previous amount. And then there was some changes on the current year. That will result in, again, this is an issue on the material that Jane Marie provided. You'll see that this allows us to use some portion of the fund balance in that particular fund, but it's necessary to still increase the fee by $10 on an annual basis. So it's less than $1 a month, but it's better than the 20-some that we had proposed, that had been proposed initially. Byron and I are happy to answer any questions about this if you want. As I said, we met. These are changes, as pointed out in the overall process, that there were certain changes to the budget necessary to balance even with the passage of the millage. This is not a fund subsidized in any way by the general fund at this point, and you can see the declining fund balance and that these rates have been up and down over the last few years based on the trend data that Jane Marie provided. If you have any questions for either Byron or me, we'll be happy to answer them, but we think this is a reasonable effort, and it still does, at least for the next year. We're using a portion of the fund balance, but it's something we'll have to look at in the next couple of years.
Questions of council?
Yeah, can you explain to me why there is a variation in fee increases and decreases over the years?
I think my understanding it's based on the demands from those years, which do include our contracts through SACRA with our current vendor that picks up garbage and then disposable costs of some of those, and may also be, and Byron maybe wants to add something to this, I'm not sure. it may also be with a declining up and down market for recyclables that may have a small portion of that, but I think it's based on what our needs were in that department as kind of a separate, supposed to be on its own operation. So they have varied over the years.
Yeah, it does. What we do is when we figure out the fee, we see what the tax revenues are coming in at, and then whatever we need to fund to balance the budget, that's how we determine the fee. Some years, the tax revenue has, if you notice, this is the first time the tax revenue was less than the fees. And that's why we had originally had asked for a much greater increase. The other times, the councils in the past have decided to take from the fund balance and subsidize the fund, actually a deficit. They approve the deficit spending for that fund, but they in turn drew down the fund balance. And then the other thing is, at least the last 2 to 3 years, the disposal costs have gone down because of the the economy. You have vacant homes. The tonnages have gone down, and almost 64% of this fund is simply disposal and collection. The collection doesn't vary because we're still going to pay the unit prices no matter how much garbage is put out for collection. But the disposal is a moving target, and if we're down, 2,000 or 3,000 tons, at $28, $29 a ton, that adds up. But we're seeing an uptick now because of the economy. The tonnage is going back up.
I don't know, but I do want to. I forgot to ask you this earlier, but is there in the pickup costs? Do they have an adjustment for gas pricing going up beyond a certain amount, or were we able to get a contract without that? Because I know that's been put in many of the contracts, and that would also result in some of the changes. I don't know if our contract
4% of the increase for car trucking is, I think, came in at 2.1%. It can't go more than 3% a year, each year for 10 years. And then we can renew it for another 10 years, but it's locked in at, it can't go more than 3%. And of that 3%, it can't go up more than, the fuel escalator is, on a dollar basis, it can't go up more than 4 cents represents each dollar increase. So it's 4% of the increase. So if it goes up 2.1% as it did, it's 0.004 of that is the fuel escalator.
Because there is a fuel escalator as well in this. So. But we're happy to answer any other questions. Our suggestion is, Jay Marie had suggested this, Council, to meet the charter requirements of the budget adoption, pass a resolution with the exception of the sanitation fee. If Council would be so inclined to re-adopt that same resolution, including the revised sanitation fee, that would be, it just makes it easier for the auditor to find it all in one spot, and that's our recommendation this evening.
Do you have language for that, City Manager? Kate, you have?
Yes.
Any other questions about the sanitation fees before we get to that?
Yes, one of the changes that residents would see if we approve the expenditure changes recommended here would be to eliminate the calendar and related postage. And I was wondering what other solutions DPW and the city has come up with to convey some of that important information that is in the calendar for our residents.
Well, we would use the existing avenues, whether it's the city's website, and which reminds me to, I think we provided notice to Council that our person who does the cable broadcast and who was involved in bidding out, starting the process to bid out our website to update it, has left employment of the city. So that's something we'll be looking to fill that position, perhaps in a different way, or perhaps at a slightly different price, but that's something that we'll have to put on hold till we replace it. But we'll use the other mechanisms we have, website, posting notices, etc. We might be able to even duplicate the same information as part of our revised website and stuff.
Other questions, comments?
I have a comment that would you rather we wait until after I make the motion?
Yes, so a motion would be in order.
All right, Mark, tell me if this is sufficient. I would move that we readopt the levies of the taxes, water and sewer rates, and include the adoption of the updated sanitation fees for fiscal year 2011, 2012. Yes?
Yes.
Support. Moved by Baker, supported by Lennon. Now comments as well as questions or additional concerns.
What I guess we should point out that, because I didn't mention it, I think earlier, that with the revisions proposed and the cuts that had been suggested, the sanitation fee for this year would be set for next year's upcoming budget would be set at $111, up from the $101 that it currently is, per single-family residential property, $95 up from $86 per apartment unit, and $190 up from $172 for the commercial property.
Yes.
Which is a smaller increase than what we'd initially discussed, which is the reason that on Wednesday I asked that we revisit this. It isn't a general fund budget. We were devoting the majority of our time at our budget meetings to those general fund budgets, but I think that we need to get out of the habit in this fund in particular of just sort of assuming that we're always going to make it work by raising fees if the tax revenue doesn't come in. A lot of the comments that I was receiving as people were talking about whether or not to vote for the millage had to do with services that weren't necessarily in the general fund, but they were some of these services having to do with tree trimming, how often the garbage comes. We're certainly not changing how often your garbage is picked up. That's what the vast majority of this budget is. That was rebid, I believe, about 2 years ago, and Byron saved us a significant amount of money when he rebid that. But the assumption was what I was not comfortable with, that if we knew there would be a gap, we'll just make up that gap by increasing the fee. So I think we've found a good compromise. We knew that things would still need to be cut regardless of whether or not the millage passed. This will keep us stable for a year or two. We can begin those conversations again about what level of service we want to offer through the sanitation fund.
Well, and I would just add to that I want to thank Byron and the city manager. Yeah, this was about a $25 a year increase fee for the residents, which normally we would just pass along, but we asked you to take a look at operations, and you did that, and you made cuts that I know it's never easy to make these cuts, but we made the cuts that we could make to reduce that level down to $10 a year. And so, Byron, I appreciate the work that you did with the city manager and Jane Marie. And to echo what you said, we have to constantly be looking at operationally at how we can reduce the costs to reduce, both our regular taxes, but also the fees that residents pay as well. So thanks, everybody, for revisiting this. Any further questions or comments? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. That is the end of the regular agenda item. At this point, I would reopen call to audience. If there is anyone in the audience that didn't get a chance during the first or wants to speak again, this would be the opportunity to do it. Dawn, welcome.
Good evening. Dawn Pazinski, resident since 1980. I do want to say that I'm disappointed that the millage passed, but it is what it is, and we're all going to try to make this work. I understand that it didn't pass in the absentee ballots, and the people that vote absentee are maybe a smattering of college kids, military personnel, and the majority are senior citizens on fixed incomes, and this is going to be very difficult. I hope you all keep that in mind with every dollar that you spend. The pockets that it's coming out of. And I hope that I don't see frivolous things popping up around the city, like the sign at Drayton and Pinecrest pointing the way to Oak Park. That why money is spent on things like that is just beyond me. That's what I have to say. I've heard talk about a roundabout, and I hope that does not come to fruition. So we'll make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening again.
Hi, Deborah Newton. And I just have a few little things that, wasn't really, but since you have the time. There's just a couple items I'd like to cover. First of all, most of the time, it's not a money issue, it's a spending issue. Because we have plenty of tax-paying people in our city paying a lot of taxes. So it's not a money problem, it's a way that the money is spent when the city receives it. So maybe there needs to be more input about how this money is spent before it's spent, not after the fact. The second thing I would like to say is, I will say I've been out of the loop for a while, and one thing I've noticed that has not changed is during call to the audience, first of all, I'd like to compliment you guys. This is the most courteous panel up there that like I said, I've been out of the loop for a while, so, but what used to be, you guys are the most courteous panel I've seen to a call to audience, and I think that's very nice. No intimidation or, just no interruptions, and I think that's really important. The other thing I would like to bring up about call to audience is I noticed tonight, and I know a while back when I used to be very involved, the city businesses, the city officials, the different departments, nonprofit organizations and things that are involved with the city or with the schools, they use that 30-minute period to bring up their events, which is, I think it's wonderful that they're here to share their events, but I think it'd be good to have another item on the agenda for those people, because they take up that, and there may be residents here that have, maybe they're shy, maybe they just want to be, but they're entitled to that 30 minutes. And the organizations and businesses and things, they should have another time where they can share their information or their concerns. And, and just let that 30-minute call to audience, since it is a strict 30 minutes, let that be strictly for residents. And, and still it'll work out. But I think it'd be a lot friendlier atmosphere. And I know if there was a whole lot of people, that they might get frustrated because they might have a legitimate concern and not be able to be heard because of the other organizations. And then this is for the benefit of people that aren't familiar.
You are at your 3 minutes, so if you could.
Am I on my, I'm sorry, okay. Well, I'll just make it real quick. As you can tell, I'm a conservative. I don't, parties are not the big deal. It's the issues of how you look at something. Okay, the first thing, this just real quick. There's a lot of misinformation about conservative people. The point is that we're not people haters or anything. The thing is that
I'm going to need you to wrap it up.
No, okay, that's okay. But when you see Tea Party, it doesn't mean any particular organization. It's an ideology. It's we the people, lower taxes, smaller government. Those three items is really what it's about.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And I didn't want to take any of your 3 minutes, but I do want you to know that item 4 on the agenda, which we call presentation, is where we have organizations like the schools spoke tonight in presentation. So when you were talking about affiliated or elected officials and those sort of organizations, we put those in presentation so that they don't take up call to
get it on the agenda. Yeah. But if you look back at the people that were in line, and I'd love to know these things that are going on, but maybe if they don't reach you ahead of time when the agenda is put together, that maybe you could have a point at that point before it goes to call to audience. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
If you can answer. I sit here and watch at home all the time about how you're going to spend our money, and it's always opened up to the public. And when I hear people say that they would like more input, I listen all the time, and you guys talked about those towers for that thing for half a year or something like that, with the DDA up here talking about what they were going to cost. And where is the limit that you guys? Is there a threshold in the policy where at a certain amount of money you have to bring it to the city or to the people, or is there anything? I mean, I keep hearing like you guys spend money that we don't know about, but you really can't, can you?
What he's asking is, isn't it like $2,000 or something like that you have to bring things to a vote, and something under that amount you don't have to bring to a
council,
vote?
you mean?
That's
$2,500 is the threshold.
So anything over $4,500 has to be talked about. Oh, $2,500 has to be talked here.
That's good.
And everybody in the city would, at that point, would have a chance to give input on spending that $2,500.
That's correct.
So you really can't spend tons of money without us knowing about it. Okay, I just wanted to know.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else to call the audience, I will close our second call. Oh, one last one, excuse me. Yes, come on up. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Josh Howard. I live at 801 West Maplehurst, and I'm not sure if this is just too many questions. The questions really that I have are, what is your plan B? For instance, if gas hits $5 a gallon, is that already factored in the budget? If a certain higher number of percentage of people leave Ferndale for whatever reason, is that factored in? I guess I'm not really sure if the way that your budget works includes that as a just in case. Is that something that you guys do as a worst case scenario, so to speak?
It's called a contingency fund, and we've got several contracts
City
as
manager,
well.
I'll let him address that.
That's one of the reasons that there is a contingent fund. That's also one of the reasons there's an unappropriated fund balance in it. We make what we think are reasonable projections, and many times they come from, for example, a decline in property taxes expected for next year, meaning December 31st is tax day of 2011. Is projected to be 5% across the board on residential. That's factored into the second year of the 2-year budget that we've done. There's some projections that you usually get from the utility companies as to or you get them from the Michigan Public Service Commission as to what they're proposing, what rate increases the utilities have in front of them, what's likely to occur. You get from the Municipal League what they're talking about in terms of, it used to be you could predict fairly well from the Treasury website what revenue sharing is going to be. It's going to be blank dollars per capita. That's now, it's fallen by the wayside in terms of their accuracy of those numbers. And of course this year they're proposing to eliminate virtually all of statutory revenue sharing and say you can compete for up to 2/3 of what might be left. And so we make projections on those that staff that knows what the inflation rate, we know that we buy as part of a consortium our gasoline for on a wholesale basis. Yes. So we know what the trend has been in that, and those are all included in the budget and kept track of either by the department heads individually who provide input into our finance department, Jane Marie, or by Jane Marie, who knows. For example, there's a factor of a proposed increase in our health care costs. That's why we're always looking to reduce the cost of the coverages because we're self-insured for it, so that would reduce our illustrative costs. And we know what the trend has been over the last several years in those cases.
So
but
let me
still a guess in many cases.
If I can say,
there is a buffer right
there's
now.
a contingency. We make our best case. We make our best guess. We try to plan for the worst case scenario. But here's the other thing: a budget is a living document. It doesn't end the day that we adopt it. If things change, we will adopt the budget when needed
So we'll come back to
meet the needs. And as he said, the contingency is mostly the way that we do that. But it's a great question. Thank you. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
All right. All right, next item on our agenda is the council liaison reports. Are there any representatives of the organizations listed here that have reports for us this evening? Hearing none, our next order of business would be call to council. And I will start with our police chief. Chief, anything else for the good of the city this evening?
I have two things this evening, Your Honor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Number one, we had a series of larcenies from auto in the Pearson and Livernois, Albany area over the last Wednesday and Thursday night to the tune of about 25 or 26 of them. They were all done in the midnight shift hours, and they were all perpetrated against vehicles that were left unlocked. We had none of the vehicles were broken into. They were all vehicles that were left unlocked, and GPS units were taken, iPods, small electronic devices, things of that nature, change that was left in. There wasn't anything of huge significance other than the number of them, but it is something that we want to remind the residents that when they park on the street, it's always the best practice to take those items into the house with you and always lock your car when you leave it parked on the street. We believe that this is the act of one or two people walking down the street as a crime of opportunity. It became very good for them as far as how many cars they found unlocked, but we're still following whatever leads that we can, but it would be very helpful if everybody knew to lock their cars and to take those small electronic devices with them. They are very enticing to a would-be thief. And the second thing I have this evening is, as of tomorrow, Lieutenant Brian Chakowski will have completed his 25th year. He will be retiring. He has not requested a party, but he will be having a golf outing on June 3rd at Rackham, because that's the kind of guy he is, a low level, just wants to have a bunch of his buddies out. But we are. This is open to anybody that knows him, would like to participate. There'll be a dinner in his honor at the FOP Hall later that same night. We have tickets at the police station if anybody wants to attend. It's $20 a person at the FOP Hall in Ferndale. So we will miss him dearly. He's a great guy. Anybody that knows him knows that, but as of tomorrow will be his last day, so we'll be having the traditional send-off for him tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Great, great.
Thank you.
One last thing, Chief. I know that your item to observe National Police Week was on the consent agenda, but I believe there's been 3 officers in Michigan killed in their line of duty this year already.
That is correct.
And the last one in Battle Creek just in the last month. It's a sober reminder that what you guys do every day to protect us is important. And I know we put that on the consent agenda, but I just want to say publicly on behalf of the city that we know how dangerous and important what your folks do every day to protect us, and we appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Your Honor, and I feel remiss in not mentioning that. Also, there will be a small ceremony on Tuesday of next week where we will, at 10 a.m., where we will commemorate that with our honor guard. The public is welcome, of course. We've sent out some invitations. The children from Roosevelt Primary School will be there to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and the honor guard will lower the flag to half-mast. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our fire chief is here. Chief Sullivan, anything to report this evening?
A couple things, Your Honor. I wasn't here for the vote. I was attending the Great Lakes Homeland Security Conference, where I don't know that I'm any safer after attending it, but I did find the federal funding for CERT teams, so I kind of accomplished the goal I was looking for. My conference was paid also by a Homeland Security grant at zero cost to the city.
Thank you.
The safer issue that's been brought up by many citizens, and the question's still afoot. The last contact with Mr. Wollweber and I have stayed on top of this with other communities and that, and I've contacted FEMA, AFG, SAFER representatives. I just talked to ours today, And if the council should entertain taking the grant, we probably, in year 2 of it, will be able to write an addendum extension and receive the full $851,000 and not start on April 6th. Due to our circumstance and the heavy override, they understood that situation, and that is one of the addendable things. So it looks like we'll probably, if the council so chooses, be able to accept the full $851,000 with no penalties and no dragging it out. I told them if you should entertain it, we probably would be able to bring them on by the end of May. And they said, therefore, there would be no phase or reason to reapply or any other issue with the FEMA grant. So that's where we stand.
That's great news, and just so you know, the city manager, I think, will be addressing the issue of the SAFER grant in his comments. So thank you, though. That's some really good news to hear.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Julie Hall, our Recreation Department Director. Good evening. Nothing this evening. Derek Delacourt, our new Community Development Director.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, thank you. Byron Fertides, Department of Public Works. Anything else for the good of the group today?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. City Manager Mark Wallenweber.
Yes, sir. Well, I know we had spoken, and certainly was an issue coming up about the SAFER grant, so we did ask Kevin to check with our person. I think that's really good news. We have followed through on this. If it's council's wishes, we can bring a specific recommendation back to council to implement this, probably and vote on the approval of the grant at our next meeting. I would point out, it's not totally related, but we have not yet, I'm sorry Pat's not here to hear this, but he'll know I've said this anyway, that we still have the contractual issues there to go on, but that is not a reason, and this is like saying it in a double negative. It's still positive for us to bring those employees back and to proceed. I think, and it will be our recommendation, assuming it's council's wishes, to proceed that way. We can probably bring this back with the official grant application stuff for the next agenda. So unless people don't want us to proceed, that will probably put this on and make a specific recommendation for next time.
I believe it is council's wishes, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, that we add this to the agenda to the next meeting and we discuss the acceptance of the SAFER grant.
Second thing, I was able to attend the Michigan Municipal League regional meeting and I'll share with council, I'll put in the packet, I already shared with Jane Marie the material that was handed out at the meeting. I must say, one of the highlights of the meeting was the wonderful cooks in Hamtramck made a traditional lunch for us. Food was fabulous, including the breaded pork chops, my favorite. But there was quite a bit of material about the governor's program. The league is working on a sample of the dashboard thing, and there was a lot of comments about what's currently going on in Lansing and in Washington with respect to funding cutbacks. I'll share the information. We'll share it tomorrow with staff, those that affect, but pretty sobering in terms of the information that other cities provided. And I was disappointed and didn't remember that their program always includes local communities putting information in about a particular project. And of the 4 projects, there was some really interesting Sterling Heights work to save the Sterling Heights Assembly Plant. I think it was Brighton, about the work they did with a particular bank to improve their downtown. Green initiatives that Farmington Hills, when they rebuilt their building, their city hall did, and Southfield, who spent quite a bit of money converting the basement of the city hall and the old library into a teen center, which they got many donations. That was the award winner. But I would just say, in the brief time I've been here, there are many programs that City of Ferndale provides that are the equivalent of any of those. So hopefully next year, I'm going to leave a note for the permanent person to make sure we nominate some of the wonderful programs we have here, because I think they'd win as well. So, and that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. City Attorney Dan Crist, anything this evening?
Just one item. Council had hired a consultant with respect to noise issues. I have contacted that consultant and urged him to finalize his recommendations for council, and hopefully those recommendations will be prepared and finalized for your next council meeting.
Thank you, appreciate it. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
City Clerk?
Oh, my God.
I have nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Nothing except to say great job from your crew again.
Well, thank you very much. They are wonderful.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you to our city clerk and our city staff, the poll workers, the volunteers who stayed late. I was here late with you, and I could see it in all of your faces that it was a long day.
It was a long day.
I know that you were running with fewer people than usual and with some new people who sort of stepped up at the last minute when you had things come up that prevented the usual people from working. So hats off.
We have a great group of Ferndale residents to draw from. So.
I was lucky enough to walk into our budget meeting on Wednesday knowing that we would not be making significant personnel and programmatic cuts in this city. That does not, however, mean that suddenly everyone who was laid off last year is immediately coming back. That's not what this millage is about. It's not what the conversation was about. It was about not cutting further. It was really sort of a status quo conversation. If we're able to, as I really hope we are, bring back 4 of our firefighters for 2 years through the SAFER grant, that will be wonderful. But when we look at what has been cut over the last several years, this millage was not about trying to bring back what had been cut. It was about not completely gutting the rest of our city services. Personally, it was not the budget that we've been working on. The worst case Plan B budget was not one I wanted to adopt, and I'm so pleased we didn't have to. I guess the last thing, and this was completely out of left field and really personally upsetting, and I don't know if you meant it this way, and maybe you'll need to explain it to me, Sherry, but I am not in the pocket of anyone. And unless you know something about my campaign finance statements from 3 years ago that I don't know, there were no big corporate checks in there. And that was just really out of left field. We are working hard to resolve an issue for a neighborhood in our city. We've spent money trying to resolve this issue. We're spending time trying to resolve this issue. And to accuse any of us of being paid off by a business owner in order to not resolve it, I don't understand where it came from. So that's it. If someone's been sending me checks, I haven't been getting them. If you've
All right. Anything else? Councilman Lennon.
I just want to thank everybody who voted, whether you voted for or against. At least you got out there and voted. I wasn't happy with the turnout, but it is what it is. And I agree with my colleague. I don't care about accusations against me. I can handle that. But you made some accusations against the police officers. If you can't back it up.
I made no accusation against what people said, and I was sad that they even think that way. And that's what I'm bringing up.
I think you should talk to.
If they're thinking that way, then maybe things need to be looked at to assure them with facts that that's not the case.
All right.
Well, I'm not going to exchange banner with you on this issue. I just wasn't happy with it. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Piana, please.
Yeah, 2 things. And the chorus here of saying thank you to the voters. I also wanted to say it was about saving our staff. We were going to lay off 3 police officers, approximately 5 firefighters, 2 DPW workers, and a court clerk if the millage didn't pass, and probably close down Firehouse 2. These were not fear threats. This was reality, and so the millage allowed us to save that. So I appreciate it, and it was a hard, difficult choice for a lot of people, but in the end, I think it's good for the community. The other thing I wanted to mention is on Friday, State Representative Jim Townsend is organizing the first ever Southeast Michigan Caucus in partnership with SEMCOG, and I am the SEMCOG liaison on behalf of this council. And it is bringing together all of the state legislators and, state legislators and senators to talk about urban community issues. And I'll be attending on behalf of Ferndale, and Mayor Coulter will join me. So I think it's a great time to reconnect with our new legislators that were elected in November. And then I also wanted to also defend myself. I don't even allow the police chief to buy me breakfast. I don't allow any bar owners to buy me any alcohol. So I have a very strict standard on myself. So to be suggested that I was bought off, I find insulting.
And I guess I'm last. Chief, if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I'm okay with that. I guess I do want to address the election that happened, because this is the first televised meeting since then. In case residents aren't aware, we literally met the night after the election to adopt your budget, because we have to adopt it that early by our city charter. And we had 2 budgets that we could have adopted. You've heard enough about what was in both of those, but I just want to thank the residents. I know it was a very difficult decision to make. Everybody had to look at their own personal circumstances, and people did what they felt was right. But I want to thank the residents for allowing us to adopt Budget A instead of Budget B. I very much appreciate that. I also want to reiterate what Sean House and Dennis Whitey has said. You know, this is a community where we can disagree without being disagreeable, and it's time to unite and come together. We're still Ferndale. We're all Ferndalians. We love this city. And we took the stands that we did because we felt that that was in the best interests of our city. Now the people have spoken. We'll move on in a united way, and I'm sure of that. And on an even more positive note, I got the honor of helping to cut a ribbon last Friday for the new Rust Belt Artist Market. And if you haven't checked that out yet, it's very cool. They have such an eclectic and artistic mix of things, and I'm jealous because I have no artistic skills at all. So to see what these artists have created is amazing, and it's moderately priced, and it's cool, and they're open just on Saturday and Sunday. But if you get an opportunity, go to the Rust Belt Artist Market, which is the former Old Navy and Gap outlet on the corner. We're happy to have them in the community, and it just makes Ferndale that much cooler. So welcome, Rust Belt. And with that, I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
No. I would move that we go into closed session to consult with our attorney regarding pending litigation and to consider the purchase of real property pursuant to MCL 15.268, sections 8D and 8E.
Second.
Moved by Baker, seconded by Lennon to go into closed session. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmembers Baker? Yes. Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, that item passes, and we are in closed session. Thank you, everyone.
Julie.
I'm so glad you guys stopped me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sorry, what?
Hey, Mike.
Oh,
We
please.
go in the other room for this, right? But then we come back out here to... Okay.
Well, guess what? It's not illegal.